There are so many aspects of hardcore that make it a unique show-going experience. In many ways, a hardcore gig is a great way to blow off steam, hang out with friends, hear new music, and support sick local bands. My favorite bands of all time have been hardcore bands. My favorite records and my favorite shows I've been to, you guessed it, also hardcore. This video is going to be extremely critical of hardcore, but it's important to say that I love hardcore. I know hardcore can do better than this. I value those positives I just mentioned way more than the negatives, but if we want to heal, first we gotta get it all out on Front Street. Acceptance is the first step. And we can't get there if we keep ignoring these gigantic tattooed X'd up elephants in the room. Hey, how's it going everybody? My name's Dan Frampton, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm gonna talk about all the things that I have issues with inside of the hardcore community. Now, I've been going to shows for over 25 years now, I guess-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. And there have been a couple things I've noticed that I could do without. And a lot of the time, people don't want to say these things publicly because it comes with a lot of backlash or whatever. But today, I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid and just say all the things that everybody knows is true, but is still going to scream at me for just saying out loud anyway. Before I start laying it all out for you, how's about you like and subscribe, and if you don't like what I have to say, you can retract that like. You can take back that subscribe. But if you want to join the secret society, all you gotta do is join the channel, become a member, and you'll be on this awesome graphic. Now the first thing I want to mention is just kind of a silly thing, kind of like an oxymoronic type thing, but you got hardcore, which seems like a bunch of tough dudes that wouldn't get annoyed by stuff, but they're actually the most sensitive group of people out there, okay? They take everything very, very seriously, and that's good and bad. You know what I mean? That shows passion, that shows loyalty, that shows dedication, but that also shows like a certain level of stunted maturity. But again, that's not really a big issue or whatever. That's just kind of a silly one. One of the biggest issues that I have with hardcore is that it is politics, okay? It's all about who you know, how you know them, how much they like you, how you're gonna get on these shows. You know what I mean? It has like promoters, it has bands, it has high level fans, you know what I mean? It's very, very political and very, very like close knit. So if you piss someone off, people are gonna talk, you know what I mean? And you're gonna piss someone else off just by like osmosis of knowing somebody else. And with all those politics in play, calling the police is very, very taboo. So what the community will do is they will police themselves. And this, by nature, is a great thing. I think people should police their own community so it doesn't need to escalate or whatever. But when you have the same people that are the politicians that are the police, well then you got a recipe for a very corrupt system, okay? Now just because you're running around with stretched ears and tattoos all over the place doesn't mean that this structure isn't toxic and the antithesis of what you actually believe, you know what I mean? When the politicians are the police, it's corrupt and there's nothing you can do about it. They're the judge, the jury, the executioner, and they're in charge of shows and events and everything. There's way too much power in such a small group of hands. That being said, all of those things lead to it being a little bit cultish, okay? These things do not change. The deities that are held at a high level, if you do not also think of these guys as godlike creatures, then you just like don't belong in this scene, all right? If you like don't think Ian Mackay is the shit's shit, then you gotta get out of here. If you don't think that Freddie Madball is the dog's bollocks, then they don't want anything to do with you, okay? You need to have the right opinions about the right bands. You need to think the right things about the right people, and if not, it's not like they'll just be a little bit like mean to you. No, they'll like completely cast you out and they'll completely disregard everything that you have to say. Because this cult, yes, it is a cult, but it's like a chosen cult, you know what I mean? They choose to do these things and they choose to like worship in this way. They go to the altar wearing their camos, and I say they've been wearing their camos since the early 80s. The fashion doesn't really change that much either, you know what I mean? They are stuck on like this like VHS aesthetic because that's where the legends were were captured, like those minor threat tapes or those mouthpiece tapes from the 90s or whatever. They need to look this way because these are the ways that it looked back then. Even though we have like the technology to make it look sick, people are still out there like being like, no, the VHS stuff is the highest quality stuff. And I'm actually kind of guilty of that a little bit because of my nostalgia for it. But my nostalgia for it doesn't necessarily mean that would be the aesthetic that I would use to push forward with my current thing. I can't believe I've got this far into the video without talking about all the social climbing and friend collecting that goes on. Now that kind of ties into the politics sort of thing, but you don't want to ruffle any sort of feathers. You want to have everybody walking on eggshells around you. Now, if you're like policing people the way they speak, hey, you didn't call that guy a homie. Why didn't you call that guy a homie? You know what I mean? Why are you talking like this? Why are you wearing that? Why are you dressing like this? You know what I mean? That's not the kind of policing that we should be doing, you know what I mean? The kind of policing that we should be doing in the scene is when we see something homophobic, when we see something transphobic, when we see something hateful, hurtful, bigoted. That's the kind of stuff we need to call out. We don't need to call out like people for liking the wrong kind of band or holding another guy at a deity type level, you know what I mean? Or not liking a VHS filter on their goddamn videotapes. And last but not least, I want to talk about posy bros, okay? Now you take toxic masculinity and you mix it with toxic positivity and you got the recipe for kind of the worst human being on earth, okay? All these kinds of guys are the exact same kind of guy, all right? They go online and they claim that they're positive. They claim that they make healthy choices, okay? But then they're in the comments being so mean, being so rude, being absolutely so hateful, and then you click on their profile and they're hiding behind a private profile. All right, so these are like the most cowardice type of people that exist, and they will all come out of the woodwork as soon as they disagree with you on a thing. They don't take a second to think about a thing that they're gonna say. They just say the thing. All right, you can say, hey posy bro, I bet you're gonna do this thing, and then they'll just go ahead and do that thing without even thinking about how ironic they are. These are like the least self-aware kinds of people that have ever existed, and they've been in this scene since I can't even remember, and the fact that it's still an archetype today blows my fucking mind. But other than that, hardcore's pretty sweet, right? No other genre can you just go to a show, jump up on stage, grab the singer by the head, and then jump into the crowd. You gotta love all of that sort of stuff. It's just a shame it comes with all of this awful baggage. Have you been going to punk shows? Have you been going to hardcore shows? Have you been involved socially in any of these scenes? Have you noticed anything that you don't really like? Well, you can let me know down there in the comments. But if you don't want your actual name associated to it, you can come over on Instagram. You can follow me at this exact same handle, Dan Frampton, all one word, the O's a zero, and you can message me and tell me all the things that you don't like. Complain to your heart's content in my DMs. Okay. Until my next upload, watch these other uploads. See you later.